Welcome to THA Talks, for free thought and open minds. Hello, I'm Paul Obitelli and welcome to another edition of THA Talks, the alternative podcast show from the UK. Our talks include news, conspiracies, spirituality, the occult, science, history, art, philosophy, religion and much more. If you'd like to check out our full archive, just go to www.thatalks.com to listen to or to download all our free content. And if there's anyone who'd like to contact us and give us some feedback or maybe recommend a guest for the show, you can email us info@thatalks.com, or you can go to our website and contact us via the contact tab there. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the show via our RSS feed, and you can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher and many other podcast directories out there. Well, thank you all for tuning in again here to THA Talks. It's always a pleasure. I'm sitting here on this Sunday afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is or what place or day it is that you'll be listening, but right now I'm looking out the window and it's very much autumn weather here in the UK as we're moving towards the centre of October, and it's not panic times yet. We're not getting too cold, but the summer has certainly packed its bags and left for another year. But the autumn is still quite nice. It's got its qualities, and so yeah, I don't know about you lot, but I've been enjoying Stephanie and Shana's shows at Hijack Radio. I think they deserve a round of applause because they've really been getting some great guests on the show there, and definitely going to be seeing a lot more shows from Hijack Radio and some other ideas coming up. Today, it's actually, we've got a lot of guests lined up, but today this was kind of like a quick fix because our resident contributor, John White, has actually been doing some really interesting research regarding the shooting in Las Vegas. And originally it was ISIS claimed responsibility for it, which didn't really shock people with all the terrorist attacks going on around the world at the moment. But it was unusual because the shooter didn't appear to have like a background that could have been involved with ISIS or anything like that. It seemed quite strange. And of course, the media played it down, and the government rejected their claims. So if they do that, then that's the truth, right? Well, John's done some research and he thinks different, which is why we've done this show, because we're going to talk about his findings and talk about a little bit about it and probably some other bits and bobs as well. So let's get to it. Hi there, John. Welcome back to the show. It's been a bit of a while, hasn't it?
Oh, well, life gets in the way, Paul, doesn't it? We get tremendously busy. It's good to settle down and get a chance to sit down with you again and get some more information out for people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been great that Shana and Stephanie have been rolling out some great Hijack shows and keeping busy. And that's partly why I'm getting all of yourself and a lot of other people involved, so we can just keep the ball rolling as and when people get busy. But you're actually
really enjoying that content the girls have been coming up with. They've been doing great.
Absolutely. But you're in the interviewee seat today because I understand you've been doing some interesting research on the Las Vegas attack and regarding ISIS. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about that and a few other bits and pieces. But let's start with that one then. How did this one grab you then? What have you got to say about that?
Well, look, Paul, I mean, I'm the same as everybody else. There I was, enjoying my Sunday, and suddenly this terrible news starts to roll in. And I mean, it's, oh, God, not again.
Yeah.
But this time, it's America. So this is something different to what we've seen before, a mass strike like this. Well, not in terms of, there was the gay nightclub, but in terms of the level of sophistication and planning of this, to basically trap those people. Yeah. They didn't know which way to run. They had no chance to run.
Yeah.
And the planning and the malice and the precision of that. This isn't just somebody getting a weapon and deciding they're going to go jihad because they've been radicalized at home on the internet. These are the serious ISIS type killers. These are the guys from Syria and Iraq, the dirty fighters, the real killers.
Yeah.
And they've come to America and they've pulled this off. And I'm going to discuss how I've come to say that.
Okay. I mean, when you say the first thing that comes to mind, it's a sort of I don't know how old he's in his late 50s, 60s, a white American, 64,
Steve Paddock, yeah, 64.
A white American, good job. All this kind of, to look at him and to listen to his background, you'd say, well, he's not ISIS. So what makes you think he is then?
Should we start with focusing on Paddock? Firstly, he doesn't have a good job. He's not an employee. He used to be in the 90s. He worked for NASA, and then he worked for Lockheed Martin, because those are both deep state contractors. But based on what his brother Brian has said in the television interviews with him, Stephen Paddock, for the last 20 years, has been a real high life high roller. And he's been going to casinos throughout the year on year, and he's got a fantastic amount of wealth, he's got a fantastic amount of property. But it's a very funny thing, to a guy who seems to spend so much of his time gambling, but doesn't seem to lose. Now that is a bit of a red flag in itself about just who was Stephen Paddock. And one side of this is the very real possibility that he was some sort of deep state actor. And that then led to this situation 1st of October. However it happened, he was in that room.
It's kind of interesting because it's almost like a cover, isn't it? If he's gambling and stuff, he doesn't look like an Islamic fanatic.
Look, the deep state that runs a lot of dirty operations. It's a lot of money from crime and drugs and things like this. And that means you need money to wash. And there's nothing better to wash money than a casino. So, it all depends on how straight you believe the situation is, because it's quite possible that Paddock may have been some form of dealer, such as an arms dealer. It's possible that he was in that hotel to make an arms deal. It's possible that he thought he was selling to one player and it turned out to be another, and ISIS grabbed the stuff and pulled the job off. On the other hand, it's possible that Stephen Paddock was radicalized and that he was legitimately declared himself for ISIS and carried this out. But the one thing which we do know is that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, the LVMPD, they do not believe Paddock acted alone. And it's significant that the 32nd floor apartment of the Mandalay Hotel, from which fired down to the Harvest Festival site, which is about 1,100 feet, and the rifles that we're talking about have got an effective range of about 1,500, 1,600 of elevation and gravity.
Right, before you carry on, before you carry on there, how do you know that before you carry on there, how do you know that that's been confirmed that they do think that? Could you just cover that, just so people listening don't go, I haven't heard that.
You've got the site, you've got an incredible amount of injuries. And this is what I wanted to say, is that there were 2 broken windows in that apartment. There's actually 2 apartments that connected. So are we supposed to think that Paddock broke glass, fired from one location, then broke glass displaced and fired from another location? Or is it 2 guns firing? And
this is what the authorities think, is it?
10 minutes that the attack was taking place. I think the balance of probability is, based as well on those statements from LVMPD, that there is at least one other person in the apartment, if it was Paddock himself shooting. So then we get to, I'm going to back it up a little bit. Try a little bit of a timeline. We're looking at 10:05 p.m. last Sunday, and the concert was in full swing. In fact, it was getting close to the end. It was the last act was on. Then suddenly this shooting starts up, and it persists for 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, I think current figures something like 48 dead and over 500 wounded. So this is an incredible volume of fire. Certainly, a heck of a lot to be achieved with one man shooting one gun at one time.
Yeah.
Now, We know that the shooting happened from the hotel because we've got all the evidence of that, and you can see that in the panic carnage, of course, because there's quite a bit of mobile video footage available of the actual attack. But you can see how the direction of fire is all coming from above and up to the right of the stage. So there's this huge volume of fire, people reacting to it, diving where they can, and of course, not everybody is managing to do that. So the aftermath of this was just absolutely horrendous. So we've got at least one shooter, and of course the official story is one shooter for no reason, because there's no admission of any kind of motive for why Paddock should have done this. There's no reluctance on the part of the US state to actually call it terrorism or to call it a mass shooting, or what is it? So America's still reeling in shock from this, but there are some reports, but they're unclear, that there may have been other shooters. So it's possible that there is other shooters who are perhaps at the edge of the crowd or something like that. And there's also reports of other shootings in the area. So it really does look like there is quite a bit of carnage going on. And of course, this is all being dug out with primary sourced interviews through alternative media, to actually talking to people on the ground, talking to people who work at the Mandalay Hotel, and finding out the things that the mainstream media just isn't interested in covering about this. So it brings me back to the hotel itself. So we've got 10:05 shooting starts, 10:15 the shooting stops, 10:18 the radio call establishes that there's a shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay. 10:28 a private security guard from the Mandalay, I don't know his name, takes fire through the door. He gets shot through, basically, he gets shot through the door, and he has to retreat. He's in hospital. I don't know how he is. And this is important because there was a camera on a trolley outside the apartment, and it had been set up to basically give a warning to whoever was out there. And there's also two more cameras in each of the rooms. So that's at least 3 cameras recording footage of this event. And those cameras were declared to be taken by the FBI, by the sheriff of the Las Vegas Police Department, at a brief press conference he gave after 2 days after the attack. His department leaked crime scene photographs. And their motive for doing so was to stop the FBI putting a complete lid on this, because they're very worried. They may feel that there's a lot more gone on, and it's not just not being told to the people. So, but there's a direct contradiction between the LVMPD and the FBI here. The FBI seems to want to take everything, put it in a box, and not have a narrative, and just say it was a nutter. The Las Vegas police want to actually get to the bottom of what's gone on. So there's a contradiction there. But it's not just these video cameras. The Las Vegas Police Department have also taken all of the security footage from over 150 CCTV cameras in that hotel. Don't forget, it's a casino hotel, so it is maximum surveillance environment. So they've taken all that. They've also taken all of the information off the booking computer and blanked the booking computer. This was all in reports by Laura Loomer, who's been doing a lot of investigative journalism right there on the ground in talking to the hotel employees. So we have a picture where Paddock 64 on his own somehow got all of those guns and all of that ammunition up to that room, set it up to make this attack, and carried that out on his own. Now, a key question is, how did he get the guns up to the room? And in an environment like the Mandalay Hotel, it is inconceivable that that was not recorded on the CCTV system. The same with the days that he spent at the hotel before carrying this attack out. So there should be an orgy of evidence of Stephen Paddock in the Mandalay Hotel, Stephen Paddock taking up bags or a trolley or in a lift or in some way hauling stuff up into the room, and it should be possible to put all that together. But the FBI has taken the lot. Now, what that means is the Las Vegas Police Department or the Mandalay Hotel, neither of them have got the evidence anymore. So when people want to say, what about the CCTV? There's nothing they can do about it. But one body that has the CCTV is the FBI. And as you're well aware, the FBI's reputation is not what it was. You know, Comey, Loretta Lynch, bipartisan, and they're certainly don't enjoy the trust of the American people they used to have.
No, definitely not. The thing is, I think that, I mean, you look at stories like this, it's like 9/11, where a lot of CCTV footage went missing for ages. I know that you've got to allow for them to get on with their jobs and some things are secret. But the bottom line is, that an event like this, I don't care. It should be transparent. All these videos should have been out there.
Even with 9/11,
and now we can't trust them.
Footage from the airports to show the hijackers.
Yeah,
planes. We had that.
We can't trust them now because the footage has been gone. So whatever footage they give us now, how do we know it's not been tampered with or something? So that's what causes so much distrust, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very well because it's very clear that information is being kept out of the public's view. It's not just the public's view; it's being kept out of other law enforcement's view.
Yeah.
So that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department can't do their own investigation, and that's not sitting very well in Las Vegas. I can promise you that. So the Las Vegas police have been neutered by the FBI doing that. But so moving it on a little bit more, the other question was really important, as well as the CCTV footage establishing the timeline and the movements of Paddock leading up to the attack. It's also what happened after that security guard got shot, because it was a further 58 minutes before they breached the door to the apartment. 48 minutes until they breached the door to the apartment with an explosive charge and flashbangs. So they waited for almost an hour. Why did they wait? We were following orders. Okay, whose orders? On what basis were they given? Because if you wanted to give somebody time to effect an escape, sitting on your hands for 48 minutes, and there's no evidence of a dialogue. If they were saying, well, we were in a sort of hostage negotiation thing with him, we tried negotiating, but it didn't work, so we raided it. You know, if they were coming forward and saying, it was Paddock saying he had grenades, he was going to take out the hotel if we stormed it. None of that. There's none of that at all. They just seemed to wait before they breached the room. And of course, when they breach the room, they find Paddock dead on the floor. And in the crime scene photos, he's lying on his back like he's toppled backwards. He's lying on top of a gun, some sort of automatic weapon. So his actual body is lying on top of a weapon. And, it's a bit gruesome, but basically it looks like he was perhaps shot in the chest or shot in the back. And then a great big glupet of blood has come up out of his mouth, and then spilled onto the carpet behind him. People ask questions like, how come there's no blood on the bullets? But of course, liquid in a carpet will seep through and will seep under any objects which are resting on top of it. So I don't find that too mysterious myself. Yeah. But there's also apparently a note. Now, the official line was it was suicide. It's not been confirmed that it was a suicide note, but there is a piece of paper on a table visible in the crime scene photographs. For all we know, it could have been a declaration of jihad rather than a traditional suicide note. So that's another big question. Why the delay, and where is the security footage? And it's not only the hotel; it's the whole environment, and it's all these other reports, which frankly are very contradictory, but also all seem to indicate that something went on. And of course, people are in a panic situation, under a stress situation. Their flight and fight has been triggered. And so it does affect on how people perceive things. And it's hard to be sure, therefore, if somebody said the shooting was coming from two directions, were they right, or did they just think they were right? So it's very difficult to pin that together without the sort of professional resources of law enforcement. But that is not happening.
So why are you so confident that you think it was definitely ISIS? Because ISIS said they'd done it. Why do you believe them?
Okay, well, let's come to that. So we've talked about the leaked photographs. That actually happened on Tuesday night. And when those photographs were leaked, they made it into the press. They were picked up by the Daily Mail, and then after that, the the mainstream media in the United States, CNN, etc., had to start covering it. But what none of the newspapers or the television has mentioned is that those pictures were sent with an email. And this email, I'm going to read it out to you. It's not very long.
Okay.
So this is a statement from the leaker at Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The LVMPD knows the motive behind the attack, but the FBI will not allow us to release the motive because it implicates the FBI in illegal arms deals and supplying arms to ISIS terrorists within US borders. So, firstly, Paul, the LVMPD leaker says it's ISIS. Stephen Paddock was...
So what you just read out then, what source was that?
This is the person who leaked the pictures.
Okay. And that's but where did you get that text? Where was it published through? Where was it published through?
Well, it's not been published in the terms of formal publication. I happened to track down the person who received the pictures.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I have a screen grab of the email redacted, so it's only what I need to know. I don't know email addresses and things, but I've used this in my article. And people can go and look at it. Yeah. I'll continue. So firstly, the FBI, the Las Vegas police leaker says that Paddock was this is FBI, this is arms deals, this is terrorists inside the US. And that's not as outrageous as it sounds. As anybody remembers the Fast and Furious stuff that was going on during the Obama regime. Stephen Paddock was an undercover FBI agent. Now that makes sense, Paul. 20 years of making an obscene amount of money and never losing in casinos, who participated in multiple illegal arms sales in the Las Vegas area in a gun-running entrapment scheme similar to Fast and Furious. Paddock thought he was engaging in another routine arms transfer, but ISIS operatives learned about it and Paddock's true identity. They killed him, carried out the massacre, fled the scene. Now, everything is being kept under wraps because, one, armed ISIS terrorists is still at large. Two, this is very embarrassing to the FBI, and we don't want their scheme becoming public knowledge. Now, that's what the man who leaked the pictures to the person who put them on the net, which led to them being in the press. Yeah. So this is somebody, who's very close to the Blue Lives Matter movement in the US. Yeah, who's trusted from people inside the police. White hats, Paul, trying to do the right thing. Okay, so let's try and unwind this back a bit. So Paddock is an undercover arms dealer, been doing it for years, an FBI scheme. They're trying to entrap criminal gangs, drugs gangs. Here's some guns, we follow you, now we've got you. But it goes wrong. ISIS insinuates itself, takes the shit, pulls off the attack, and then leaves Paddock to take the blame. That's the scenario being panned out there. Now, ISIS, in terms of their statement, have said that they did radicalise Stephen Paddock. It's possible that they knew about the arms deal because Paddock was a double agent and told them. But maybe he wanted to make a suicide gesture. We really don't know. And with the way that ISIS can get into people's psychology and twist them and mind control, well, nothing could be off the table. But it's very clear that the Las Vegas police have a hell of a lot of skepticism and think the FBI is covering this up because it embarrasses them. And you know what? A scandal of this magnitude, maybe that actually could do some serious damage to the FBI.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a worthwhile thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
So rolling it back again, let's go back to Monday. On Monday, ISIS claimed responsibility. Now, people who follow what ISIS get up to know that ISIS has a reputation of never, and I mean never, claiming responsibility for that which it did not do. And it evidences that it's done these things. There have been people who've pulled off jihadi stab attacks and so forth in Europe who've been waving ISIS flags and shouting the odds in ISIS slogans, and ISIS has not taken those attacks as its own. So it doesn't want copycat attacks. And the reason for this is that ISIS are fundamentalist fanatics, and their fanaticism is based on a great deal of pride. So they need to have the pride of being able to tell their enemies exactly how they're hitting them. And they also need the pride of being able to tell their recruits exactly how they're being effective. And if ISIS start making it up and they can't substantiate their claims, they lose credibility on both fronts. And they're not really willing to do that. But, and this is what really caught my attention, this had not been true since June this year. There were 2 attacks, minor attacks, that ISIS claimed but did not evidence. So to me, that looks like we know we're going to pull off something big. So we're baiting a trap to make it easy for you to say we didn't do it. Now, I'll explain why I think that in a moment. Backtrack a little bit further, there's also video footage from 5 months ago of ISIS jihadists basically boasting, shooting some footage and boasting, we're in Las Vegas. And whatever you think about him, Brennan, CIA Director Brennan, 3 months ago said he was very concerned ISIS were trying to pull off a major attack in the USA. So we've got ISIS people in Las Vegas 5 months ago. They've got plenty of time to plan and pick their moment. We've got the CIA saying we're worried there's ISIS around. We've got the FBI running, possibly, if the leaker is right, the FBI running gun sting operations out of these Las Vegas hotels. We've got Paddock, who's been doing it for 20 years, and all of a sudden, this one time, it all goes wrong. However, Paddock himself was tied into that, and of course, he's dead, and he's not saying very much. So on this, when ISIS took this much to be on Monday, they claimed it, but they did not prove it. So, what they do is they have a website which is accepted as where they link stuff up, and they also have a mouthpiece who appears on Al Jazeera. And this is how they line it up, and this is how everyone accepts that ISIS has carried an attack on. So they basically sort of laid it out there, but left it there to be knocked down. And of course, the American media jumped straight on it. There's no evidence. But if the FBI has got all the evidence and they've got it behind official secrets, well, not finding evidence isn't hard, is it? It's been kept away from them. So it easily go, there's no evidence, because they've been denied the opportunity to see it. And of course, the mainstream media doesn't care to look anyway.
So why do you think that the authorities don't want people to think it's ISIS? Why are they smearing it?
I mean, firstly, you've got the FBI angle, but even more importantly, it's a matter of national pride, isn't it? Because if you go admitting ISIS has taken out a major attack in the US, and then there's another very obvious point, which is that the corporate media and the deep state has been in an all-out war of words with Donald Trump since his election. And what has Trump wanted to do, Paul?
No,
travel ban.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
So wouldn't a major ISIS attack therefore give a massive amount of credibility to Trump?
Yeah. No, that's true. I was going to ask, actually,
that's the other motive there, isn't it? They don't want Trump to have a point.
What do you think of Trump's view? I mean, a lot of people would think that the Trump that people voted for and wanted to get in would have probably been pointing the finger at this himself and saying, this is ISIS, this is ISIS. He's gone very quiet.
He has done that.
Oh, is he?
So he has done that, yes. He released a tweet that said it was a, inverted commas, miracle that Las Vegas Police Department were able to respond as quickly as they did. Now, this was seen as criticizing the Las Vegas Police Department. But if you consider the email, and if you consider if Paddock was FBI, then law enforcement were in the room before the shooting started. And is that not a miracle, Paul?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I think that Trump has to be careful. He can't just come out and make accusations against important agencies. But I think that direction is, I don't think Trump will be covering up an ISIS attack, but it's a question of manoeuvring and of course the bigger picture of North Korea and other things going on in the US as well. Coming back to ISIS claiming responsibility, so we had that, but we have no proof. And I thought to myself, well, look, But yeah, I've seen this email. I saw this email Tuesday, and I go for like, I've got to believe that the Las Vegas police are trying to tell me that A, Paddock's FBI, B, ISIS pulled it off. Why then would ISIS not evidence that they pulled it off? And the answer seemed to me pretty obvious: to bait a trap. Because if they let the law enforcement through the FBI and they let the media go with the story that ISIS, they know ISIS here, it's just Paddock, lone guy, what a nutter, whatever, what a shame, oh look, the next news story. And then ISIS then devastatingly prove that they did it. That is a massive psyop blow against the people of the United States. And that would really blow people's minds.
Yeah.
And then that confusion, we then come to the far left. Now, you're aware of characters like Linda Sarsour, the Islamic Sharia activist.
Oh yeah,
who's very close with the feminist movement.
Yeah, the irony.
There are major connections being made between extremist Islam and extremist leftism.
Absolutely.
Not just in America, but also in Europe. But in this particular case, in America, now Antifa, Black Lives Matter, BAME, all of these different groups, they have got a big chunk of their membership, like all these groups. They are well-meaning people, right? We might say that they're wrong, but that's not the point. They mean well. And if they really understood what they were part of in terms of the bigger Soros globalist destabilize America agenda, they'd be disgusted, right? But inside all of those groups is a hardcore, they are globalist. They want to break down and break apart the United States of America. And they want to do that because America is threatening to rise again. America is threatening to break up these cozy transatlantic treaties which have put these globalist corporations in charge of the world. America is threatening to return to being a democratic sovereign nation state in the true sense. And if Trump succeeds, then it's actually a major blow to the New World Order because they want America weak, not strong. Because a weak America can be massaged along with the overall globalist plan. But a strong America doing its own thing, well, that isn't so good for them.
Yeah, well, it seems to be happening not just in America, in Europe and all the sort of westernized nations. It's the same old story, isn't it? And it's
it's a very important anniversary year. 2017 is exactly 100 years since the Bolshevik Revolution to overthrow the Tsar. And on the far leftist radical sites, they are openly talking about November the 4th as a call to action. And they literally want a colour revolution, Paul. They want a violent revolution. They want to rise up in all the cities and cause enough chaos that America can be fractured along racial lines and will no longer be a unified country. And at that point, then the globalists are going to mop up and win, aren't they? Because there won't be an America to have a strong president like Trump, taking the agenda out of their control.
It will be a police state, yes.
So there is a very real possibility, Paul, that this attack from ISIS is part of a campaign that might coordinate to something bigger. Now, I did originally thought, well, are we going to hang on to this until November 4th and then blow everyone's minds and all the bells go off and all the uprising starts? But what happened was, I think they must have got a little bit pissed off that nobody was even slightly giving them any credibility for it because they'd overdone it. So I literally put my article together and published it. And 4 hours later, the proof that I'd been looking for actually popped up. ISIS had made a second statement yesterday morning. And what they've done is they have put an infographic on their ISIS website. Now, I have not seen it. Right? I'm not going to go looking for ISIS's website. My information on this is coming from an international Yahoo report. I also have a similar international AOL report. So this is international reporting of international facts.
Right.
Now, of course, those press agencies have a security clearance, but they can look at that material and then they can describe it to us. So that's what we've got. We haven't got a direct picture of the website. We haven't got the picture pictographics. So we don't know what ISIS has said, but we do know that they've said it. And we do know that it's convincing. We do know that the Las Vegas police have accept that this is genuine, because there's a lot of information we haven't had about all these other reports of other shootings, other guns in action, other things going on. But if you have the full picture, how many operatives were they? What were they doing? Was it 2 in the room? Was it a team of 4 with 2 down on the ground, on the ground, shooting on the ground? There's too much there to be able to nail it down. But what's important is ISIS have provided basically a comic, yes, which says, this is what we did when, and the information in it is convincing enough. But okay. Now at that point, you've got ISIS in the room. It's an ISIS attack.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. That I also wanted to point out, wasn't there a lady? Well, a lady was reported live. We can actually go to YouTube and see it.
Right, Paul.
And someone was there saying, "You're going to die. You're going to die." And she actually, this lady got removed because she was bugging people so much, going around saying, "You're all going to die." This was 45 minutes.
Well, this is one of the reasons that the police say Paddock wasn't alone, and also there are receipts of meals for 2 sent up to Paddock's room. Now, this worth mentioning, exactly the same thing happened at Manchester. Someone shouting the odds around about 45 minutes before an attack went off. Yeah,
it shows you the hate. It shows you the hatred as well, doesn't it? That these despicable human beings would go over to these innocent people and say and take pleasure in looking at them knowing they're going to die. It just shows you the evil in some of these people.
Sadistic satisfaction, electric thrill of sadism. Yes, these are sick people. I mean, that goes without saying. But at the same time,
drawing back to what you said about some of these far left groups, I mean, I agree with you regarding general people. Their emotions are played on the left, where they kind of just really emotionally rip you apart, and a lot of these people are reacting with empathy, and their emotions are being taken advantage of. But some of these pressure groups, these far left pressure groups, they're nasty bits of work as well. They're no better than ISIS,
aren't they, Paul?
They're no better, and they're nasty people, and people got to be aware of that.
So look, I mean, so my view is that America looked like it could be under some serious moral threat here. And if a devastating psychological blow poleaxes people's confidence in the media and the law enforcement, and then a civil war breaks out, God help. I mean, that's not good news for any country. So I felt I had to write what I did. And I feel that we're not really away from that yet, because despite what I've just told you, despite that ISIS have provided this infographic and it's reported on the international press with Yahoo and AOL, there's still no sign at this point of it breaking into the US mainstream media. And I think that might be where Trump might come in with one of his famous tweets in the near future to actually move that along. But it's there's no good way of looking at this whole thing. It's bad enough, the idea that it's just loony, right? But we start getting into the other things that we're now finding out about this. This it's not as dramatic as a 9/11, and in terms of the false flag aspect, the way of looking at something, it's nothing like as complicated as 9/11, and in fact, it may not be a false flag. Now that's possibly the biggest false flag of them all.
Well, I mean, I was convinced 9/11 was an inside job, and this seems fishy as anything to me. What you're saying makes a lot more sense.
Don't do what they do.
Yeah, the only thing, I mean, there's been a lot of rubbish conspiracy. A lot of conspiracy theorists just let their brains fall out their ears and just believe anything. And I think a lot of the time the Secret Services play tricks with them with this. They're one step ahead of them. They don't realise that. But stuff like this, it's fishy as anything, and this definitely doesn't add up. And what you've said makes much more sense than the official explanation so far. So I also think what's happened, the last attack or attempted attack in England, when Donald Trump mentioned that he let something out about the Secret Services knowing about this plot. And it just makes you think between the lines, but underneath the surface, behind the curtains, there's some conflict going on, and some very sort of a bit of conflict behind the scenes, if you know what I mean.
Oh, just a touch.
Yeah.
Let's try an intelligent civil war, which has been going on for the most part of a year now. It's brutal out there, Paul. It's absolutely brutal out there. The way that Trump weathers all this is really quite incredible. But let's come back. I'd like to talk about people's reactions, because I think we've come a long way. People are a lot more willing to disbelieve than they ever used to be. And that, of course, in many ways is a good thing, because it means that we're a lot harder to fool. And the old declare we're under attack and point the finger routine doesn't work anymore. Yeah, because we want to know, we'll prove it, and then we might believe you. So a very healthy dose of social skepticism is good to avoid being pushed into expensive foreign wars. But the problem is that the world of conspiracy, it is so complicated, and people aren't that well equipped to really think in a kind of decentralized, holistic way, to really think like your intelligence, because that's not how normal people are. The normal rules of decency, morality, and all of that. That doesn't exist in the intelligence world. It's hard, cold analysis, and we find a bit of a picture, like with money. Like, oh, I found out that Jews are very powerful. It's the Jews run the world. Yeah. I found out that Mossad has been involved with messing with ISIS. ISIS is Mossad. I found out CIA has been involved in messing with ISIS. ISIS is CIA. And also the other one is, of course, crisis actor. And I think with the Paddington Green attack, with the failed explosive device, the frenzy of a crisis actor, because nobody had died anyway, because the device wasn't deadly on that occasion. But there hasn't been quite the volume of crisis actor on this one, because there's a lot of dead people in one place. But it's still there, and it's like this. I mean, we're talking about Wahhabism, Salafism, these fundamentalist sects of Islam, and they are around about 140-ish years old since the origination of this interpretation. And what it does is it takes all the bit where Muhammad was kicking ass and taking names and being brutal and nasty and slaughtering, and then it throws all the rest out.
Yeah.
And then that's the Quran. So it's a very stunted thing. It's a very brutal, nasty thing. And it's a very aggressive, male, psychological doctrine. And it developed in the extremists of extreme survival. People who had to live in the desert or live in the mountains, who had to survive in hard conditions, wanted hard rules for a hard life. And I know if you live in those times, probably these rules made a lot of sense. It's a matter of perspective. But taken into the modern world, and wanting to return to the core thinking of 700 AD, it's monstrous. Now, 9/11 was, of course, blamed on bin Laden. Bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, Salafist. They wanted Islamic values in a modern world, right? However, ISIS, Wahhabism, no, this is medieval brutality, and they want to destroy the modern world. So this is a very nasty mindset. Now, we know that they failed to have revolutions in the 60s and 70s. They ended up lounging around in Egyptian jails, and the Americans sprung them, sent them to Afghanistan, trained them. They became Mujahideen. They became Taliban. They fought off the Russians, and then they became helpful intelligence assets. So by the time we were getting to Syria and Iraq, and the emergence and declaration of the Islamic State, at that point, ISIS was definitely masquerading as a moderate rebels, and taking weapons and materiel and training from the intelligence services to be used to fight Assad. But in 2015, the gates of Europe came down. And in 2015, was it 2015? No, 2016, Putin got involved. And that changed the game for them there. So let's play along with what Mossad wants. Let's play along with what CIA wants or NSA wants. These games of this suits us for now changed. And a large number of them, we know, at least 5,000 of them, and this is the hardened, brutal, filthy killers here, got into Europe through migration flows. It seems entirely rational that a number, don't know how many, but a number of these people have also got into the United States. So they are now the classic enemy within. But what really stands out from Las Vegas is, okay, you've got Paddock's corpse, but I don't see no other dead ISIS operatives. These are not people who are looking to suicide themselves. These are people who are fighting more like traditional terrorists, like the IRA, who are going to hit, displace, survive to hit again, hit again. And of course, with all the recruitment and everything else going on, this could potentially be the germ of what could grow into a serious challenge from within the United States. Because people don't realise how well vulnerable, emotionally manipulatable white Western people can be seduced into being part of ISIS. And to American ears, it's going to sound unbelievable that an American man like Steve Paddock could have anything to do with those lunatics. But it's over 500 white Europeans have fought for ISIS.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
A significant number of people would be vulnerable.
And Western people are so spiritually derooted at the moment and weak-minded, to be honest. They're not. There's no real rooting for them. They're so easily manipulated, and that's why we've got these far-left crazy groups. Hey,
look, grow your beard. You can treat women like you want. No one's going to call you shit anymore.
Yeah.
You can't say that it can't work, So the major threats here.
I've often thought that it's basically all this ultra sort of liberal, social justice warrior stuff. It's there to make people so sick and tired of it that they do actually try to convert to Islam as a solution, And it's that's a bit worrying if that is the case.
Well, so look, we've got ISIS that might be ISIS. We've got ISIS that might really be CIA. We've got ISIS that might really be Mossad. But at this point, it doesn't matter because whichever it is, it's still ISIS.
Yeah.
It's still an official ISIS attack. America has been attacked by ISIS. That's what the evidence is saying. And I think that the infographics which have been released is not the end of the evidence. It's just a beginning, because there's going to be some high quality video.
Well, we're getting towards that end, getting towards the end now. But there's just one. Recently, we've had on Saturday, yesterday, we had a car that I think it was by where was it? It was by the museum, British Museum. And that's been said. Amusing. That's not a terrorist incident. But you kind of look at it and you think, right, okay, we'll take your word for that one.
But doesn't it tell us though about the mind job that these forces have done on people? Because a few years ago, you see a car careering like that off the road, you're going to think, oh my God, he's got a problem with his brakes. You're not going to think terrorist.
Yeah, now you think, oh my God, a terrorist.
Now you think terrorist, so you go, oh, was it your brakes? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it was.
He didn't get seriously hurt.
Yeah, maybe it was. I mean, I haven't seen any evidence to prove that it wasn't, but because of I am suspicious.
Police are saying they've said that. Nobody seems to be willing to contradict it. I think it has turned out to be whether it's mechanical failure or driver error, I don't know. But no, it was not a terror strike.
Right. Okay.
Oh well.
Well, that's a good thing then, I guess.
Hurt. No, there's a few people were hurt, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a good thing event, but it's a good thing that it wasn't someone that tried to do it.
Yeah. Trying to avoid them, not hit them.
Yeah, that's it.
Doesn't help. Yeah.
Well. Anyway, John, it's been great having you back on the show, and of course, you'll be coming on lots more with other guests that we've got coming up. And is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had a talk. I've done my best to try and lay out just a basic structure, but the reality is there is so much more. There's so much information about Las Vegas. So I really recommend that people follow through onto my Patreon or onto my Facebook and read my detailed article and go through the huge amounts of evidence I've collected over the last 7 days. because I really think that you'll get a lot of answers there, but you're just not going to watch. They're not going to get if you'll just continue watching Sky News or BBC or CNN and waiting for it to pop up.
Yeah.
Because the major news corporations are no longer the mainstream media. It's the internet and the people and citizen journalism, which is mainstream media. They are the lamestream media. They now follow us. You know, it was to a member of the Truth Movement that these pictures and email were leaked. It was a member of the Truth Movement who got those pictures being distributed. Then a UK paper picked them up, and only then did they get picked up inside the United States, basically where it was too late not to admit they were real. Now, that means that we drive the news narrative. We are driving the citizens' investigation. We are digging out the facts but they're trying not to make it easy for us to know. And so we need to help and support each other and follow each other's work. So, please take advantage of the work that I've done on this question to give yourself a leg up, for which you're not going to get easily through traditional sources at this moment. And can I just take 2 more minutes here, Paul, to also talk about Facebook and other social media?
Okay. Yep.
And the severe chilling which is taking place. I published a different article about I published my Las Vegas article. I shared it 50 times or so on different Facebook groups. And to do that, I share it very slowly or I get banned. Right, but I managed to share Las Vegas, no problem. I made another one for Catalonia. I was banned for 7 days on the first sharing. Okay, so I went to my timeline and I started talking to more of my friends. And you know what? Most of my friends are getting 7-day Facebook bans for no reason. Messages to Facebook are not answered and so forth. This is a vast attempt to chill our speech and to stop these perspectives getting out there. And if we don't do what we need to do to get this out there, then we're going to have the majority of Americans believe the crap that they're told again and until something really nasty happens. So it's in the interests of freedom and democracy worldwide that we take up our responsibilities. The truth isn't nice. The truth isn't pleasant. Right, but we have to stand by the truth, because if we can't do that, we are lost.
Yeah, well,
that's my final message.
They'll either shut down your Facebook page or whatever means you're using, or just call you a Nazi, one of the two. And that seems to be the tactics at the moment.
They've given up on calling us Nazis. It does not work. So they're just going for more and more direct censorship now. That's a fact. Absolutely.
Okay, well, John, I'll be looking forward to teaming up with you again soon in the very near future. I'm sure you're going to be fishing some nice guests for the show, as I will as well. Shana and Stephanie will be back.
Facebook ban, Paul.
Oh no, don't worry about that. Well, you're not banned on here. You're not banned on THA Talks. That's the important thing. And of course, David Parry will be back with us soon as well. Thanks for you all for listening. Please keep telling your friends about the show. Keep linking the show. More importantly, keep downloading the show. We'll be back again real soon. Till next time, take it easy. Bye.